great to be back. Great to be back, right?
It'd be a little bit better if it weren't freezing outside.
Thanks enough.
Well, it is when you're used to 80 degrees for a week.
Okay, it's 12:01, call the meeting of the Infrastructure Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Bill Jenckes,
Here.
Dave Reeser,
Here.
Steve Brunner,
Here.
Fred Mogel will join us by phone after his appointment, and Keith Derr.
Here. Okay, moving on to reorganization. We need a chair and a vice chair. And I will like to make a motion to propose Steve Brunner as chairperson.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, so be it. Take it away.
Okay, moving on, we need a vice chair, and I'll make a motion that we name Keith Derr the vice chair of the Infrastructure Committee.
I'll second
Okay. Got a first, a second. All those in favor?
that.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, congratulations, Keith. All right, moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment out there today? Lots of people here for no public comment. It's a new year, happy new year. Moving forward. Western Berks Water Authority.
Okay, presently, everything seems to be running smoothly. I hate to say that sometimes, and it's always a kiss of death, but things are running smoothly. The draft contingency plan was approved on Friday, so I think we can get rid of that as far as the agenda item is concerned, but that was approved on Friday. And I have no comment on the increase, so I'll give you a side note. Our chlorine provider, we used to do a yearly contract, now they're doing a quarterly contract. And in fact, they've already given us a price increase as of April 1. So that's just the nature of the beast. It's just nothing we can do about it, but that's just the way it is. So I don't have any other comments on the rate increase, or do we need that on the agenda in the future?
That was gonna be my next question, if that can come on.
I don't think so.
I see no reason to keep rehashing what we know.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Curious, Dave, are they giving you flat increases, or are they giving you like a surcharge that may or may not go away?
Increases.
So it's increases, it's not
Oh,
surcharge.
yeah. A lot of companies are doing it. They're
Yeah.
taking advantage of this whole pandemic to increase their prices.
Some of them are giving you like a surcharge that they're
Right.
saying is temporary, you know,
Temp, yeah.
but they're not, they're just,
No,
yeah, so
no.
that's not. gonna
Price
go away.
increase, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna go away,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I know Brentag's doing the same thing, and, because they're getting it from their suppliers.
Yep. So, that's all I have on Chris. Chris, you have any comment?
Nope,
Chris is our board, okay?
no comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving on, zoning codes report.
Can we actually skip me to go to number 7 and then come back to me, just because Don and Alan are here and out of respect for their
Yep.
time?
That's a good point. All right, so we will table number 6 and head on to number 7, State Hill Road draft and alternative analysis.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Don Lerch from RKK. Doing the study for the State Hill Road corridor for PennDOT. And introduce, and Alan Piper, Dave Molinaro have been project managers through the study phase. And we have Rob Hudson, who has been his firm has been selected to continue on through the preliminary final design of the project. So this is the same slide the last time I was here, which I don't even remember when it was, probably around a year ago. Same project purpose, improve the efficiency and the safety of the corridor.
Is it working? Not working?
Pointed at the computer.
You're good, Don. Good move.
All right, so the limits are from and including Colony Drive on the western end, and including Penn Avenue on the eastern end. Okay. So the project's steps into phases. We have submitted alternatives analysis report and under PennDOT's review. As I mentioned, Wallace Montgomery has been selected to complete the preliminary engineering and final design. Rob Hudson is here. They're not under contract yet, but hopefully will be within about a month or so. And we are sort of transitioning. Dave is transitioning. I'll be taking over as project manager for PennDOT, so I'll still be involved in the project moving forward from PennDOT's side. We'll go through the final design and the preliminary engineering, and then once we're in final design, we'll also start right away in the utility phases, and then move on into construction. Okay. So this is what is currently programmed on the Reading Area Transportation Studies 2021 Transportation Improvement Program. Years are so year one was 2021, year two is 2022, et cetera. And those are the amounts. All of the phases are funded primarily with a specific type of funding, highway safety. Not going into much detail. PennDOT gets funds from the federal government, all kinds of different categories. I mentioned that one because of since it is funded with highway safety funds, the primary goal is going to be safety improvement. The draft 2023 TIP is in development. Anticipate that should be adopted this summer, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. Okay. So what are the project needs? Again, they're based on safety predominantly. Several intersections have a high number of crashes. Most of you are probably aware of that. They do exceed the statewide average in all segments of the corridor. A high percentage of those crashes are angle and rear ends, and to some degree that's indicative of areas with had high levels of congestion. Sort of go hand in hand. Several intersections currently operate over capacity, so we have congestion at several intersections, and the travel time does not meet expectations, as again, most of you are probably well aware of. Okay. The next two slides are not necessarily needs, but they're other project goals. Many of them you have identified in meetings we have in the past. We'd like to provide a consistent corridor cross-section instead of going back and forth. Provide bicycle pedestrian facilities consistent with your planning documents. Last time you mentioned that there were some issues with the turning radius at several of the intersections. Again, the last meeting, this group had mentioned that you would like to have the possibility of replacing your subsurface utility, either in conjunction with the project or in advance. It was also mentioned there were some sinkhole issues at the western end of the project, and that there was some stormwater ponding under the Norfolk Southern Railroad Bridge. Again, this is some of the a lot of them are repeats of what I just said, and some of the items that you have identified to us. Okay. So, we started out with three basic alternatives. One would be a consistent 5-lane little section through the corridor. All the intersections would be signalized, and there would be right turning lanes where are warranted. The other one would be a 4-lane roundabout corridor where all the existing signalized intersections would all be roundabouts. There would be a median divisor, and then all the other side roads would be right in, right out only. And then we bounced around a whole bunch of combinations of those two different concepts. All of these included, we'll back up a little bit. So we took a look at one of your goals of providing the bicycle accommodations through here. Figured there's two ways we could have possibly done that. One would have been made the shoulders wide enough for to be able to accommodate the bikes on the road. The other one would be to include a 10-foot shared use path. So in other words, you'd have a 10-foot sidewalk, which could be used by both bicycles and by pedestrians. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well later on. Putting them all together, you can see the cost estimates we came up with for the 5-lane corridor and for the roundabout, quite substantial. Okay. I'm not going to go into this too much detail. I can come back to it if there's any questions. I just want to highlight some of the items here. The alternative 2, which is a roundabout corridor, provides not only the best potential for safety improvements, it also provides the best level of service. So the roundabout corridor gives you the best features of both safety and congestion reduction. Let's see what else. Okay, if you go on the next slide. You can see some of the impacts it has, though, and although the roundabout provides the best levels of service and safety, it also has some of the bigger impacts in terms of some residential displacements, some commercial displacements. One of the things I highlighted there was the parking loss. The widened roadway with 5 lanes, 73 parking spaces along the corridor would be permanently eliminated. The roundabout would be 41. Now that's important because as we go along here and how the project is moving forward and what our recommendation is going to be. Okay.
Give me an idea where the 73 parking spaces that you're losing were?
I'm sorry?
Where would the 73
Where?
spaces be lost?
A lot of them are the businesses right along, most of them are on the north side. Businesses where the parking's right along the, I'm just trying to think, the bank. The bank would have some, the.
1912, the shopping center.
So, and there's something up there, potential land use to non-conforming. So, what I mean by that is there would be enough parking spots taken, so that property would no longer be viable because it does not have enough parking to accommodate what the parking that should have for that particular business. So the loss of the parking spots is a significant issue. There's also the additional impervious surface. All that additional surface is going to have to be mitigated. That particular area is you might imagine, it's going to be very difficult to find locations to mitigate all that stormwater. So as the project goes along, additional right-of-way is going to have to be necessary to mitigate that. We have not identified it in the study phase, but that's something that will need to be considered.
How many of those businesses become non-compliant then? I mean,
Well,
just one?
We talked to, I talked to Michele about this, about what would be considered non-compliant. So say for example, you had I'm just gonna pick something, fast food restaurant, which would require 20 parking spots. And right now, it has, say, 23, and we would reduce it to 15 or 16. What would the borough's determination be on that particular business? Could it continue to function as a viable business? Is the borough going to have any issue? The advice that she gave me is a reduction in parking by more than 50% would probably be something that would be considered, put that business in non-compliance, and if the business goes into non-compliance, then it becomes a total acquisition.
Cause like there's like that sandwich shop and they only have a couple of parking spaces as it is now, I would
Right.
imagine.
So if you took a couple, you would have to buy the entire business. So that is very important, as we move forward, because, well, I don't wanna steal my own thunder later on, so. I'll come back to parking. All right, so how do we get from what the estimates are to, what is currently programmed? As you can see, there's a significant, discrepancy there. And the answer is, well, you don't. Moving forward is, how do we get closer, to be more realistically programmable? And, Michele. So, we want to either reduce or segment the project limits. A lot of discussions with PennDOT. The answer was not necessarily reduce, but to segment it into more than one project. If you segment it into more than one project, we want to focus on what the priority needs are first. As we discussed, safety would be the number one priority, followed by congestion reduction. And we want to dispense with some of the project goals. Bicycle accommodations and complete sidewalk locations. As I mentioned, the bicycle accommodations are going to create a 7 to 10 foot widening, and that's predominantly what creates that impact on all those parking spots. So, although we would like to accommodate bicycles, decision moving forward was we would not incorporate the ability for bikes to use the corridor. Segmenting it into sections. We broke the corridor into 3 separate sections. The first one would be, and these are just numerically because going from west to east, not necessarily in priority order. The first one would be Colony Drive to the southbound SR-22 ramps, and then moving forward from that location to the Norfolk Southern Railroad overpass, and then finally from there to Penn Avenue. And this is what's currently reflected on the draft tip, which I'll discuss in a couple minutes. Okay. This is just to show you, the red would be what we're going to refer to as Project 1 for now. The blue area is Project 2, and then the green area is Project 3. That's not all inclusive, but I just use this graphic for reference. It's something I had available. Okay. So, priority needs first. Looking at safety, your highest crash locations from an intersection perspective are Berkshire Mall has the highest crash incidents. Spring Street is second, and Woodland Road is third. If you look at the segments between the intersections, 222 ramps to Woodland going westbound is first. Same location going eastbound was second, and then from Spring Street to the ramps, the northbound ramps westbound is the third. And then as far as level of service is Penn Avenue, and the colors that are associated with that are those same colors that we were shown in that graphic before. Woodland Road is the second worst level of service, and then the northbound ramps is the third. So, talk about dispensing the project goals. So to reduce some of the costs, originally we had anticipated reconstructing the entire corridor. So to reduce some of the cost, significant portions of it will be reconstructed, but where it does not have to be, it would just be milled and resurfaced. We did talk about limit the right-of-way acquisition to remove the bicycle accommodations. And the sidewalk gaps will be closed to a degree, not necessarily on both sides, and then the existing sidewalk, instead of being completely reconstructed, would just have work on the ramps to make them ADA compatible. Okay. So this slide is showing, the red shows where existing sidewalk is, and the yellow shows where new sidewalk would be constructed. You can see majority of the corridor will have sidewalks. Particularly on the south side, we're able to provide sidewalks the entire way through. On the northbound side, it still has some gaps for various reasons. Okay. So Colony Drive to southbound, SR 222 southbound ramps. Talk about roundabouts. Roundabouts will reduce crashes, and they're particularly so with fatal and injury crashes. And it does provide a higher level of operational efficiency. So that for that first project, we're recommending installing roundabouts at Berkshire Mall and Greenwood Mall, and then at Woodland Road. The missing link, or the one portion which is still narrow, from Weniger to Woodland, we're going to widen that to provide space for the 5-lane section. Now, what does this do? Oh, I'm sorry. We'll also, as part of this project, we're going to temporarily relocate the eastbound ramp to southbound 222, just slightly to the east. What that allows you to do is, as cars are coming through the roundabout at the mall entrance, it allows a little bit of space for them to jockey for position. For example, if they're in the inside lane in the roundabout that they want to get off on the ramp. Okay. This addresses 2 of the 3 intersections with the highest number of crashes, the highest segments, and the second most problematic intersection with respect to level of service. In this particular scenario, we will not be providing specific right turn lanes. There is one little piece down at the far western end of the corridor, which there is some access control issues. The restaurant and some other places have open access, so we're just going to provide some sidewalks and access control down at that western end. And in this particular section, we intend to address the sinkhole concerns. So this is the western end of the project. As so you can see, we're adding some sidewalk and curb down at the southern end. Okay. Moving on, this section you can see the widening on the north side where it now narrows down. This is not continuous. It's just that there's some gaps in the. So, for example, there would have been a gap between the last slide and this slide. I'm just pulling out the highlighted sections. So there would be the widening portion. Okay. Then you come to your first roundabout at Woodland Road. Okay. And then your second roundabout at the Berkshire Mall entrance. And then you move into, you can see right there the ramp relocation, just slightly to the east. All right, so the second project would be to combine we're proposing to combine the southbound, the northbound 222 ramps and the Spring Street intersection into one roundabout. And I'll show you that in a little bit. Also install a roundabout at the other ramp. Now this addresses the intersection, the second highest number, well, you can read that. There is one negative to this project in that combining those two ramps, we're gonna be making the existing Spring Street, again, I'll show you this, right in, right out, but also the Granite Point Drive only be able to do right in, right out. So that is one of the negatives associated with this particular proposal. So here would be the new roundabout at the southbound ramps. As you can see, we pulled it down to the south to avoid that retaining wall, which is holding up the parking lot to the mall property. Okay. This is a section which then goes underneath the 222. Okay. And then here is what I was referring to about combining the two together. Spring Street would be relocated to come in into the same roundabout used for the ramp series. We still need to have accommodations for traffic coming in out of the substation, so that would be right in, right out. And as you can see down at the very bottom right-hand corner, the entrance to Granite Point would be right in, right out. Excuse me. And then the third would also be to install a roundabout at the Penn Avenue intersection. And this addresses the intersection with the worst operational efficiency. When I say worst operational efficiency, it's head and shoulders above the others with respect to failing level of service. However, this has the most significant right-of-way impact, and it has a significant potential to have some cultural resources impacts because of the historic, potential historic properties that are on that intersection. During this one, we hope to address the ponding issues. Now, what this would do is, for the cars that are coming right out only out of Granite Point, it would provide with the roundabout an ability for them to turn around and come back. Okay, and we'll show some pictures of that. So there is some leftover as you go underneath the railroad bridge, and then here's a picture. The next slide is going to be a picture of a roundabout that goes. And you can see there is one significant right-of-way acquisition down at the bottom left-hand corner of the roundabout, and so there is some potential for some cultural resources issues. None of the projects here have been identified yet as a potential resource, but we have not done the research necessary. It's very likely the church will be, it's very likely that the old Borough Hall will be. So there is some potential historic issues there, okay? So, as I mentioned, the 1, 2, 3 were just a geographic description. Here is what is being proposed for the tip update. So the first one will be to start Colony Drive with preliminary engineering in 2022. So we're in the process of executing Wallace Montgomery's contract. Hope to get them under and give them notice to proceed sometime this summer or fall. And then we will move in through sequentially through the other phases. As you get into, don't be concerned that I have 4 years for construction. We don't anticipate it to last 4 years. It's just that the funding gets spread out over the 4 years. And then the middle portion, project number 2, would be later on. That wouldn't start until 2027. And then the Penn Avenue portion would actually start in 2023. Work its way through the process. So if you see construction, they would line up so that Colony Drive section would be done first. Once that's done, we would then hope to move into the Penn Avenue portion, and then finally the balance of the project. So that's our update. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I guess mine's still the same. How many businesses does this disrupt, put out of business, or significantly change?
I can.
I mean, you're like the Penn Avenue thing. You're talking about taking a lot of business. I mean, you're
Well,
not
the
thinking.
Penn Avenue one, it would just be that,
Bell tower.
the south,
What about Mogel Tire?
Looks like a
no, the tire business it would not take. The only business, the building it will take will be the one on the southeast quarter, but I think there's 4 different, components of that building.
Yeah, it's all owned by the bell tower, but there's apartments on the upper level and then businesses.
And what about the ones on State Hill Road? What about how many of those?
State Hill Road, there are some considerations, there are 2 projects in particular, I believe the pharmacy. That's right. Yeah, that was one with which we would have some issues with, there's other ones along there, there's the bank at, Berkshire
Square.
Square would have, parking issues. Some of those parking spaces are the outliers of the Berkshire Mall, so, they would not be impactful because of the sheer magnitude of all the spaces that they already have.
What about the apartment complex, Woodland Plaza at the intersection of?
We're able to avoid those with the roundabout.
Wow.
We've come very close, but, we would not impact the sidewalk, around the corner comes within a couple feet of the building, the back edge of the sidewalk. But, we are, like I said, are able to avoid quite a bit of the total
So is
state.
this, I don't know what I'm looking at right now.
This is, Berkshire Mall entrance.
Greenwood Mall, and Berkshire Mall.
Ah,
Can you go back to the Woodland
Yeah,
Road?
what's the Woodland Road look like?
this
So as you can see, the property we're talking about, we do come very close, but we do not have to impact that with a total take. There are some businesses.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Which
if I'm looking at this correctly, is Penn Avenue to the left?
Penn
Avenue
Avenue
is
is
green
the
flag,
green.
right across from the entrance to the mall.
Okay.
Yeah, I get
You
those.
went
Down
down the road, that
Right
entrance
corner,
to the
that's the
mall.
Mogel station.
The road
So
on the
right
other
there.
side is called.
That's the mobile station up there?
Right, yeah,
Yes.
top right.
This is the travel agency down here in this left corner?
Right
Yes.
there.
So that wouldn't be impacted, the travel agency wouldn't be impacted?
Doesn't look like it.
No,
Are
Their spaces
are
are.
vehicles coming from Penn Avenue, going to be able to make that left on the Woodland?
yes,
You come in here.
It almost looks like it's.
You
way back.
basically go 3/4 of the way around. To make a left, you go 3/4 of the way around the roundabout.
No, it just looks like that pork chop's making it so that it looks like it only,
Oh, that's just the that's the existing right-of-way line, that screws things up on it, that's just the existing right-of-way line.
Oh, that little triangle,
Right
yeah, that's
here.
existing right away line.
So I assume we took into consideration that 180 some odd days a year, there's buses going.
right, that's
through
why
there.
I'm asking that.
There's a lot of buses, school buses that go through there, a lot.
The elementary
There's an
school is
elementary
back
school.
down here. You got a lot of school buses that are
Coming
coming from Penn Avenue,
and then-
making that turn.
Incidentally, I just finished a project in which we're building a roundabout right at the front entrance of Pleasant Valley School District, if you know where that's at, the high school. And the school had very similar concerns. And they actually stopped traffic on Route 209 during their morning and the afternoon, and they're very concerned about that. And they said it's actually easier to do it here because the police officers that you have to stop traffic don't have to stand out in the middle of the road. They can stand on the concrete island, so to some degree they are protected. So you can still monitor the roundabouts to stop traffic and let other traffic go in case of you would have an event like that. Roundabout works in a situation that everybody yields. The circle itself has the free flow, and all the other directions have to yield. Quite frankly, I was skeptical of roundabouts many years ago when I first started getting involved in them. What convinced me was the roundabout that we built up on 222. Coming down to this area early in the morning, I would sit at that intersection for 20 minutes to get through the traffic light. The first time I came down, again, basically the same time in the morning, about 7:30 or so, I came up and went right through the intersection. I was amazed at how efficiently they actually do operate, and historically they have been proven to be safer and to move traffic a whole lot more efficiently. So
I drive that 222 pretty often between Allentown, and it never gets less confusing in traffic circle. It confuses me every time, but it sure does make traffic flow.
yeah.
You know?
So the bottom right-hand corner of this thing that I'm looking at.
Now the bottom right, yeah, well, the bottom right-hand corner is a concern with respect to access. That is I think it's the same property owner with the two buildings. I believe one is a residence, the other is a chiropractor's office. That is one which has some access issues. So if you were coming westbound on State Hill Road and wanted to go to the chiropractor, you would actually have to come up to the next roundabout or the next intersection, turn, and come back the parallel road to get into the, now to get out is not so much of an issue, but getting into that particular business and residence is one of the issues that was the one that I listed on that table as a potential residential and commercial displacement, depending upon what we can do to cure it. But even though you're denying access, direct access in one of the directions, they still have the ability to get in and out of the property. So that's one property which could have some a significant right-of-way value associated with it.
Alan Piper, the county. Just one thing I want to point out on all of these discussions right now is that, as Don mentioned, this is still only the study phase. So any of the details that Don is talking about are still subject to potential revision and adjustment as they go through the next two phases of the engineering, with the actual preliminary engineering, and until you get to the final engineering phase. I think two big points, come out of this. One is if we'd have been forced to stick to our original budget, we probably wouldn't have a project right now. The advantage that we got out of that was the recent Federal Transportation Infrastructure Act that really opened up a bunch of new money for us. We went from a project that was probably going to be at max a total of $2.5 million for all the phases, up to a project right now that added up. We're probably looking at almost $32 million over, that's gonna be spread over those three separate projects.
If again, that is a good point. This is just a study phase. Once again, it's preliminary and identify your limiting issues. By that I mean cultural resources or other environmental resources, and have to manipulate your design to avoid or minimize those. They do have the potential to change. We did do quite a bit of manipulation on the roundabouts and moving them around to try to avoid significant impacts, and I think we've done a pretty good job. If you get to what we're not recommending is to do roundabouts towards the western end, say at Berkshire Square. There would have been some significant issues with doing roundabouts at those particular intersections, because those had some, for example, the one would have probably taken the, is it Santander Bank? Because of, that would have inhibited the access throughout the bank, and that probably would have been a total acquisition if a roundabout would have been proposed there. So this is what we've come up with from a study phase. Rob and his firm have the challenge of converting this into contract documents. Yes.
Question, you're talking 5 roundabouts from Penn Avenue over to Woodland Road, is that correct?
Ultimately, yeah.
That just seems like an awful lot of roundabouts, but again, I'm not an engineer, so it just seems like a lot of roundabouts in that small an area.
I mean, if you don't mind my saying, the 2 roundabouts in particular at Woodland Road and the mall entrance seem so close together. Won't that proximity kind of reduce the effectiveness of them?
One of the things you could do there is, if you could do what's called a barbell roundabouts, where the roundabouts operate as a pair. Now, so say for example, again, you're coming westbound, and you would, the disadvantage is westbound and you want to turn onto Greenwood Falls Street. You would actually have to go up to the next roundabout to turn around and come back, if you have them function as a pair. But that is a possible option. You would remove, on this particular diagram, the part of the circle that's on the left side, that would not exist. So the 2 roundabouts would sort of act as a long oval roundabout as a pair. That's a possibility when you do have them in proximity. We don't think it's going to be an issue that they are far enough apart.
So, if I'm coming down Spring Street, and I wanna go up to Penn Avenue, so I can't do that. I have to turn right. I have to go up around and.
Right, but Spring, no, but in this particular issue, Spring Street is, you're coming into the roundabout. If you want to turn and go towards Penn Avenue, you just go around the roundabout. You go 3/4 of the way around the roundabout.
Oh, there will be a roundabout right here.
Yeah, right, it's Spring Street.
Yeah, if I can. So if you're coming down Spring and want to come, you just come through here, circle around here.
Okay.
This part of Spring is just here just to provide service to the substation. It'll be terminated.
Now, one of the things, while Don has that there, we knew that there'd be significant concern from probably the borough and definitely from the owners or the folks up at Granite Point and all of the tenants up there with that right in and right out. We haven't been able to figure out a better way to do that yet, but part of reasoning for the project phasing would be to skip this what was identified as the number 2 project and make that actually the number 3 project and not build that until the roundabout is built at State Hill Road, Wyomissing Boulevard, and Penn Avenue, so that any traffic that's coming out of Granite Point can go up and make the U-turn at Penn Avenue.
So it's for me to hear this right, if I'm coming out of Granite Point, I'm turning right, I'm going under the bridge, I'm going up to Penn Avenue, doing basically the 360-degree turn to go right back down, correct?
Correct.
You can't go 3/4 around coming off of Granite Point. I mean, there's a roundabout there, isn't there?
No.
So it's
Granite
allowed.
Point's standing in the corner.
We, I actually looked at that to see whether or not you could move Granite Point up and into the roundabout as an extra leg, and because of the significant grade difference, to try and get down from Granite Point into where the roundabout is, that just didn't work out.
We also, just so you know, we also took a look at,
Seemed like a mess.
we were surprised at how much traffic uses Hobart. Particularly coming south on business,
By the works.
yeah,
Burn
they,
Road.
Yeah.
Burn Road turns into Hobart.
they, all the traffic basically avoids that intersection by going down Hobart. There's more right turns there than there is at the Penn Avenue and Spring.
Did you count the alley too? Because a lot of people use that alley as a shortcut when they don't want to wait for Hobart.
No, I just don't. So we're actually considering, converting Hobart into another state roadway. It's just, it had some issues with how narrow it was, and, so.
Your other issue with doing that is that while that may have helped improve the traffic along State Hill Road, it didn't do a darn thing back where it branches off of Penn Avenue at the post office. It just moves the problem down there.
The other thing that we proposed was eliminate parking on, Penn Avenue. I know from past experience how well that goes with the public and the businesses along, that currently have parking, so, that one we sort of put in the back burner also. We looked at a bunch of other crazy ideas, for example, reopening the entrance underneath the railroad. What's the name of the street? I'm thinking of, Berks, yes. But that could be iffy because you don't know what that old bridge is like before it was covered under. So we did look at a whole bunch of, we threw out a whole bunch of crazy ideas, evaluated them and said, nah, that's probably not a good idea.
Alan, you probably remember this, but wasn't there a major buried electric service issue when the Granite Point driveway was constructed? Are you familiar with that? Is that what
That was up on the hill.
Was it? Because what I was gonna ask is whether or not this project will create a new issue with that buried electric utility.
It's a good question. I don't actually.
What I recall that was up at the Granite Point building, it wasn't down.
I know there's the big overhead stuff that's up
Yeah, but there was some sort of unknown underground, but from my memory, it was up at the building itself.
Okay.
That was another, we took a look at relocating, the driveway to Granite Point to come in opposite, the ramps. But, the utilities associated with that and the grade associated with that, made that, impractical as well. So we did look at, okay, this has some negative features, what can we do to address them, but, we ended up throwing out a lot of the stuff that we looked at because it was just, did not appear to be practical.
You had alluded, that a potential impact to, Atonement Church and also the Old Borough Hall. What sort of impact are you referring to?
Well, anytime you would take any type of right of way, whether it be temporary construction easement or, even a sliver take, on a historic property, you have to go through the evaluation of what effect it had to that property. In this particular roundabout that we have on here, we have, I believe,
Yeah.
gotten it situated that it does not impact, but you don't always have to, see, in this particular case, it does impact the sidewalk. So there is some, impact to the church property, the old Borough Hall property, not significant, but, what's that old expression, if you touch it, you bought it, or, so there are concerns with this particular, with just about any roundabout, but the other thing we looked at was, if you do an intersection, you add, the 5-lane corridor through here, you would end up taking that building in the southwest quadrant anyhow. Whether it be a roundabout or whether it be a 5-lane intersection, they both have the same impact to that building.
Same building we're talking about before, right?
Yeah.
I'm directionally challenged.
I'm just
So bell
seeing
tower's down here at the bottom. right?
pitchforks and torches, you know, they start messing with the old Borough Hall and Atonement Church, you
Well,
know.
so, I mean, this is the old Borough Hall. My comment to Alan, so what Don's referring to is the PHMC, Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission. You actually have to submit a report to them that they'll pull up and see if there's any historical data. I personally can't think of anything that what the state would consider to be historic versus what the borough may consider to be historic that would come up for either one of those
Well,
properties.
the borough would be we refer to as a contributing party. So you would have input in that determination. There has been, we looked at the database, and there had been some overtures for evaluating those properties, but they were never completed for one reason or another, so none of them are currently listed. But our cultural resources people, in just doing a very quick visual assessment, believes that there is potential historic impact there. But like I said, if you, the process is you do a determination of eligibility, and you'll get that determination, and if it is eligible, then you have to do an effects report, which says, okay, it's eligible, this is what the effects will be, and then you determination if that is a major impact or whatever, and then you have to go through first have to try to avoid it completely, and then if you can't avoid, you go into, okay, so what can you do to minimize the impacts? So in this particular case, say it was, all right, to minimize the impacts, we slide the entire roundabout in one direction. Could have a more significant impact on another historic property. So, the process going through the preliminary engineering will go through that entire process, and all those properties will be evaluated for their eligibility.
At what point in your process would I be able to talk to your engineers about at least the water and sewer utilities? When does that happen?
Probably right after he gets his contract signed.
Yeah, we will do a preliminary engineering. In preliminary engineering, we mostly just identify where all the utilities are, identify what the potential impacts are gonna be. And then once we get in the final design is when we really start to do the coordination with arranging for the utilities to be relocated. In this particular case, it's not a relocation so much as an accommodation, but
what that means.
It can be done one of two ways. You can do the work prior, or it can be done as incorporated into the contract. I'm not gonna speak for PennDOT, but I would assume that that would be as a reimbursable, so.
If you could take that slide back to the Woodland Road and no, one more.
Yeah, one more.
Yeah, that one there. My concern there, when I just looked at that, is in the, that would be the northwest side. In the existing sidewalk there, that is now gonna be part of the roadway, both Western Berks and the Borough have dueling meter pits that would now be water meter, where we take our water from them, that would now be in the roadway.
And beyond that, our 36-inch main is now running under active roadway.
Well, it does now too, already, I
I
think.
thought it was mostly in the shoulder.
I mean, I think you're out in the road now,
Are
I'm
we?
99% sure. But,
Where's the sewer line that you want to replace?
it's from Greenwood Mall down to the railroad.
Does this change anything for you for that?
No, it just has to be done prior or during their work. That's not that big a deal. I just think of those two water meter pits, there's a lot of plumbing involved with it, let's put it that way.
Is there gonna be any power at these roundabouts? So if we want to run cameras from them?
Well, let's talk about roundabouts. Usually the roundabouts have a couple different features, and as we progress in the design, we will be coming back to you and asking you to, whether or not you want to do a couple different things. One would be the sidewalks. I'm assuming you have an ordinance in place which passes the maintenance on to the adjacent property owner. Okay. So one would be maintenance of sidewalks. The other thing that roundabouts are generally lit with highway lighting. And that would be something that the department generally asks the local municipality to assume the responsibility of. The third thing would be flashing warning device detectors for pedestrians, which would be pedestrian activated. So each one of those crosswalks, there would be a flashing beacon in which a pedestrian can push the button and it'll flash to warn people that there's warn motorists that there's people about to enter the crosswalks. And then last but not least would be the circle itself. A circle itself is generally encouraged to be landscaped.
Concrete's better.
Yep.
Well, that's fine, and a lot of municipalities are preferring to do that, and that's fine.
The statue of.
That's actually encouraged, to have something in the middle of the roundabout which basically sticks up. And in the roundabout, you generally do the landscaping in two different components. Towards the center, you want stuff that's really high, but around the edges, you want stuff that's not high because it interfere with the sight distance. But to answer your question, can you put power to there? Yes. You can run a conduit and you could run power into the circle. Of course, you're gonna have power to accommodate all the lights.
Look at some cameras that we put up this year at some of these intersections on the lights, and now we're not gonna be there.
Could you move them into the circle? I don't see why we couldn't do that.
We have to look at the distance of it, you know, how big that actually is with the camera, be able to see and the angles that we want.
You mount them on the statue you're gonna put up, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there has to be power there.
Yeah,
It's not gonna hold.
for the project I was referring to before by Pleasant Valley School District, we're running conduits with electricity into the center, because they're putting up something, I don't remember exactly what it was, and they want the power for two things. One is to light the, whatever they're putting in the center. The other thing is for, they're having landscapes, so they want power in there so they can plug in their, equipment to, trim the hedges or whatever. So, yeah, you can run conduit to the center and have power there. Anything else? If there's any details that, you want, for example, if there's any more specific details on specific properties and what their impacts would be, let Michele know and she can get to me and we can get that information to you. But again, just be cognizant of what Alan said, is that this is just a study phase. There's obviously going to be revisions as we move through the design.
Have you eliminated the idea of having a pull-in for like buses? If I recall them, the first set you had those, and I said to you now. Barter told you they weren't dropping.
We did some coordination
And they do.
with them, and we talked to I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Jeff Listen at Barter.
They actually prefer to have their pickup areas not along the street. They prefer where they're at right now within the shopping centers. Could we accommodate it? Yes. We would just have to, two things. One, we'd have to find a location where it's not too impactful. Because a bus pullover is going to, you're going to add another 12 feet plus the accommodations for the persons that get on and off the bus. But could it be done? It could be.
No, I thought that was part of your original plan.
Well, that was part of our original questions were, do you want to accommodate bus pull-off areas? The input, the feedback that I got back was no. We don't think it's necessary to accommodate them right along the street.
Well, what I was getting to is BARDA had told you that they're not dropping people off on the road, and in fact they are. In front of the mall and up by Woodland Plaza, they're stopping, and that really screws up traffic along State Road. I had said that to you the last time you were here.
I don't know what we can do. So I don't know what you can do about it unless, as I said, if you want us to accommodate it, we can try to,
There's plenty of commercial sites that they can pull in the mall and other places to drop off.
It's still, like I said, this is the study phase. As it moves into the preliminary engineering phase, that's where we can keep that discussion moving and coordinate between the borough and the transit authority and see how to work that out.
Thank you.
Well, that was fun.
well, thank you for your indulgence. Just wanted to come back and let you know where we stood and where the project was, and the fact that the primary fact was being able to accommodate bicycle accommodations would have some significant impact. So that's, I know it's one thing that you've requested that we don't think we're going to be able to accommodate.
One thing that drives me crazy is there is no way a kid can go from Wyomissing, excuse my language, Wyomissing Hills, was your former Wyomissing Hills, to this side of Penn Avenue without taking our life in their hands. Just doesn't way to do it.
You mean on the bike?
I appreciate it.
On what? And I don't know what the answer to that is. This may make it maybe a little easier because you can get at least the things in the middle, the triangle things in the middle, but I don't know.
Now, you didn't hear this from me, but they could go on the sidewalks, but that's not, in design standards, you're not supposed to recommend that. That's why,
My kids don't.
if you're gonna have both bikes and pedestrians, they want the 10-foot sidewalk. It's just unfortunately, the businesses you have right now have a lot of their parking just right up against the, and it may not seem like, a significant widening, but it's just enough to, disturb parking spots.
Repeat.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just we're trying to take all the properties and vote them in 2 months.
We are gonna
All
vote for
parties.
you.
All right, moving backwards. We go to topic 6, we go to zoning and codes report.
Just to introduce to anybody at the table who has never met Glenn Kraft or Joe Nider from Kraft Code Services, I asked them both to attend the meeting, and either Glenn or Jeff Hope from his office will likely be attending future meetings just to answer any questions about property maintenance. My report's pretty self-explanatory unless anybody had specific questions. The one update I did want to give is related to 48 Cardinal Road. Mr. Jadick contacted Glenn and I believe that was the end of December, first week of January, and requested a time extension due to his inability to find a contractor. Actually forwarded an email conversation with the contractor that he had been working with, that apparently that person's partner contracted COVID and had to back out of any potential agreement. Mr. Jadick's indicated that he will continue to work to find a contractor, and if he's unable to do so, he will make the repairs himself because it's winter and part of the required work includes painting. Glenn, Chris, and I spoke about it, and again, needing to treat him the same way we would treat anybody else. We would give anybody else a time extension because painting in January or February is highly not worth it. So he has until May 10th of 2022 to either comply, find a contractor, and give us an executed agreement for the work, or to complete the repairs himself.
So just to make my life easy here, if May 9th, if this was anybody, doesn't matter who it is, if they came to you and said, now I have a contractor, May 9th, it's not gonna start for another, but they're not gonna start work for another 6 months, does that cut it? Does that cut it?
I can't force someone to find a contractor, and I'll remind you, he had a contractor who was willing to do the work, who backed out on him.
With the way the climate is right now, if you could get something done like that in 6 months, you're doing pretty well. Contractors are very busy, and most of them are out.
Wish I could have something for 10 years going on. If I lived up there, I'd be absolutely furious. I am now. That's ridiculous. That those people gotta look at that, and I've looked at that for 10 years.
Well, keep in mind, prior to April of 2021, when the enforcement notice was issued, he fell under the Permit Extension Act that the state of Pennsylvania
I
authorized.
understand that. But I'll go back to what I said before, you're still playing us.
Moving on. So we're done with that report?
Yep,
That was good.
I don't know if this,
unless anybody had any questions.
the farmhouse, is that under zoning?
That came under, hold on, yes, that they got the variance.
Yes. Why are they asking for off-street parking? Is that in the back?
Yes,
Well, you know, that alley back there is absolutely a danger. I mean,
so one, they already got it, the hearing was back in December, but two, it's similar to previous variances that were granted for the property for the same thing.
who's responsible for that alley in the back?
The borough,
Have you been back there?
Which alley are we talking about?
behind
Back
Penn
of the-
Avenue.
By the
fire
Healthy
station.
U and where the farmhouse is going to be, right down from the firehouse, along between there and the railroad tracks.
Talking about where the blacktop kind of hits the stone.
Well, the blacktop, I think, is at the fire company, then the rest of it up through. I wanna tell you, I drive down there, they have gullies in there, like, it's horrible.
And I'm telling you, we not grade, we don't have a grader, but we address that probably twice a year, and because of a lot of traffic, it's like a dirt road, and it
Yeah,
attracts potholes. Yeah, it's constantly.
would it make sense to perhaps, put Michele or something? I I mean, 'cause
Deal-
there's a fair amount of traffic on there.
We could, but historically, if somebody has a stone out and they wanna pave it, the abutting properties have to get together
Right.
to pave it. So if you get enough people interested, yeah, but for the borough to pave it, it's not been the way we've done it in the past.
So it'd be the responsibility of those people along that
Those
line.
businesses, Penn Avenue businesses,
Right,
you know.
well, it's residential there,
Yeah.
and then the two business there, right. Okay, but that alley is horrible. Okay.
Why are you driving back there so long?
I go to Healthy You.
I can tell that, but.
Oh, yeah. No, sometimes they can't park on Penn Avenue, so I go around the back. Healthy U has maybe, I don't know, 8, 10 spots, something like that. And I park back there.
So Healthy U needed the same variance to open. Healthy U needed the same variance to open.
Right, I'm sure they
Yes.
did, yeah. Okay. That's all I have.
Alrighty. Any other questions? Sanitary sewer?
Jim's office has all the information they need, and they are drawing up the bid documents as we speak.
Good.
Pump station, we went and took a tour of a similar Gorman Rupp pump station down there in Morgantown last week.
That was fun.
Yeah, very nice. This will be in me and Jim talking and designing till the end of the year. It's a process. We're hoping to get the documents ready by the end of the year, so we can get it either late this year or early next year. Spring Township Interceptor, I just got an email this morning, they're finally sending a survey crew out, so it's progress there.
Where's that again?
That is Reading Boulevard in the circle.
Cool circle. There's someone down there
Down.
right now.
Yeah.
It was a little bit ago.
Yeah. And that'll go down through past the high school, down Park, down Old Mill Road, and somewhere near the Conservancy.
Have they awarded that contract, or are we
No,
just?
they're still taking forever to
Still think once we know more detail, we should notify the
Yeah.
people. Streets?
Sidewalk is informational. We had a pre-bid meeting for the streets. Unfortunately, we only had two. It was a mandatory pre-bid meeting, and we only had two bidders there. That's not good. From what I understand from Nick and Jim, one of them thought it was 11 o'clock and not 10 o'clock, and another one had too much COVID in their office. February 15th is the bid opening. The only other street thing I want to mention, we just found it Friday, we have a really, you won't see it below ground, but there's a good sinkhole out on Berkshire Boulevard across from the movie theater. Again, a rusted out storm sewer pipe under the old metal galvanized pipe. And we're going to avoid digging it up, we're just going to try to line that bottom of the pipe and fill it in. But pretty big hole that you couldn't really see from the surface.
What are they digging up between the circle and Wyomissing Boulevard and Penn Avenue? Got a bunch of holes dug in areas.
Circle on Wyomissing Boulevard and Penn Avenue.
Is it, that's not Cleveland.
Garfield?
Well, they're doing that.
Oh,
at
that
Garfield.
UGI,
Garfield.
Yeah, on
Like
Wyomissing.
gas lines.
the 1200 block of Garfield,
Right.
we let them know that we're gonna be paving that, and they go, oh, we have an old line, just a 1200 block.
It's a gas line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Bike station?
So you may recall, under the PennDOT grant of $187,000 that we received, bike share was included in that. We had to put it out to bid, because PennDOT money. Bids were due last Wednesday. Tandem Mobility is the only bidder, which was also the company that we wanted to use. So the committee needs to make a motion to accept Tandem's bid of $60,000 to provide bike share for 2 years, which is the same amount of money that PennDOT has included in the $187,000 towards bike share.
So this is no matching, I think this is their paying.
We pay the cost up front; they reimburse 100%.
Right, but it's 100%.
Yes.
You good with that?
Fred, do you have a question?
So I'm seeing like paintings in the street and stuff like that.
Well, PennDOT paid for that portion of, actually DCED paid for that portion, so we got 3 separate pots of money for forestry. We got 2 million from DCED, we got 187,500 from PennDOT, specific to bike share stations, bike repair stations, and the sharrows and signs for the bike route. And then we got $622,000 separately from PennDOT that we're now putting towards other projects.
Okay, and then bike sharing station is to be located where?
There's gonna be 3 of them, one in West Reading, one at the multimodal lot on 4th Street, and one out at the quarry parking lot behind Wawa.
And what are they?
Bike shares, you basically use an app on your phone to rent a bike.
Oh, okay, I've seen them in the city.
Yeah, like City Bike, or Zagster, yeah.
Does anyone really think they'll be used?
Actually, yes. Reading Hospital already had bike share locations on their main campus and in front of their IT building at the knitting mills. And this kind of was spurred by a conversation with Courtney Dixon from Reading Hospital as to the use of their stations, and then further conversations with Equus and Drexel University College of Medicine as to wanting to provide alternative means of transportation besides vehicles for students.
Time is left in front of the library, somebody will pick that bike up and put it back to where it belongs.
Actually, the owner's credit card is charged for the purchase of a bike because they didn't return it to the station.
That'll get your attention.
Yeah. And,
Yeah, really.
I'm sorry, Fred, what was your question?
And you said we got 1 bid from Tandem Mobility.
Tandem Mobotics, yes. Which, I mean, the intent here is we're trying to create a contract with them. The city of Reading is looking at signing a contract with them, and they have the current contract for the hospital. So the idea was you can't create a network if you have different bike share providers. So the language in the bid doc was worded in a way that Tandem was almost going to be the only person eligible, or I should say company eligible to submit for it, because it had to be a company that already has existing bike share within a certain square miles of Wyomissing. Mobotics Tandem has the contract, actually 2 contracts in Hershey, and that has the ability to deploy within 30 days. No other company can do that, they're 6 months out.
Is we're okay with this bid, even though there's only 1?
Yes, because this is, before we found out we had to bid it, this was the company that we were going to go with.
Plus it's 100%.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Good. So we have a motion to approve. Anyone want to second that? Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passed. Okay. Cambridge Avenue stream work.
I don't think there's any update on that, this is still on there for informational purposes.
Okay. Pedestrian bridge, Wyomissing Creek pedestrian bridge.
After the January 11th council meeting, I sent a copy of the approved resolution and the executed agreement back to PennDOT. So this is the other PennDOT grant award of $622,000 that they approved us shifting to these 2 other projects. I've been told it takes them 60 to 90 days to execute and finalize everything. We cannot incur, well, we can incur costs prior to the execution of the agreement by PennDOT, but then they're not reimbursable. So basically it's gonna sit on hold until PennDOT's agreement comes back as executed.
Okay. Verizon. Chris?
Okay, the action items that are on there have been already acted on by council. I think the follow-up step is gonna be to circle back to Verizon and talk about the lease agreement that, we had talked to them about a year or 2 ago, and now that the ordinance is updated again, we can circle back and see if they still wanna do a lease agreement with the borough. So I don't have any further action items on that today.
Questions? Moving on, Green Light Code Program 2018.
I don't know, it says January 24th as a bid date, Nick. I haven't heard anything from Jim if that's actually out on the street yet.
I
or
think
not.
TPD's still waiting to hear back from PennDOT, and they're gonna be pushing back their schedule about a month or so.
So this is being pushed back.
In process.
Okay, 2019?
Same thing, they're.
No, same
one
thing,
and the
okay,
same.
sorry. Okay, so the Green Light goes, Park Road Bridge.
No change since the last update. I've been keeping that on the agenda to keep you informed as I find out from PennDOT when they intend to schedule the painting.
Soon it'll be warmer.
I would hope so.
Cheltenham Drive stormwater concerns.
I put that on the agenda at the request of Larry Logero, who had indicated he was going to attend the meeting. He was also supposed to attend back in September and has not. Jim's spoken to him, I believe, on several occasions and could probably give you a quick synopsis of what the issues are and why we've done nothing further or unable to.
Does anybody know where he lives at? Down there at Cheltenham or more? When we get a very heavy, quick thunderstorm, the intersection floods, and as designed, goes cross-country, across his property, down to Ring Drive in Spring Township. Early 2000s, we added some stormwater capacity there. Still, when we get a heavy thunder boomer, still goes, it might happen once a year, twice a year, where it goes across his yard. And the thing we can really do is try to add some inlet capacity. It's a natural water course there. I don't think we'll ever stop it. We can incrementally make it better.
Does it impede his property very much? Or?
Yeah, yes it does. Well, there's a good picture. I mean, that's, when you get a heavy thunderstorm,
Yeah.
just like State Hill Road at the railroad, same kind of scenario.
Yeah.
Just can't get out of there. All three sides are all trying to get to that point.
Do any of the photographs show his backyard?
Yeah, I think there was one. It's not his backyard, it's his side yard. Yeah, and that's, if you know the area, that chain link fence is the PA American Water property. And then it's that natural overland route, and then, coming back towards us is his house. It doesn't affect his house at all, it affects his side yard. I don't know, but I'm suspecting that might have been that June 2019 storm, yeah.
So I think one of the other issues and conversations with me he raised is that the third on the catch basins needs to be larger. I know Jim and I have talked about that, and there's a happy medium between too small, too big, and then other things potentially go in there and block it.
So the only thing we can do to help fix that is to add some more inlets.
Yeah.
Put on the
Is there capacity in that stormwater
The
collection
pipe,
system?
the pipe has capacity. It's a big concrete pipe.
So you just add that to somewhere down the 5-year plan.
I don't know if it's a capital project per se. It's something we'll probably do in-house. And we can add a couple inlets, ourselves.
I think all those streets down along there can be tough getting.
Yeah, well, and especially right there,
It comes from.
everything's getting to that one low spot.
All right, so we're looking into it.
So do we have to go back to Larry and let him know, or?
I can do that.
Just let him know sometime during this year, we will try to make it incrementally better, but it will not go away.
Okay. Old Mill Overflow Parking Lot.
The committee had discussed the possibility of creating a parking lot, the wooded area directly across from the Wyomissing pool, which this is the pool property. This is, I believe that's used as a field hockey cross field for the Wyomissing Area School District. So the borough owns this property. The way the deed is on it, Chris had looked into it for me, I believe 2 years ago. There's no deed restriction that would prevent the creation of additional parking on that property. This is coming out of a potential request from the school district, again, going back probably 2 years, if there was a way we could partner together to create any type of additional parking. Since then, I've received complaints from 1 or 2 of the residents on Gerard Avenue in the 1500 block that are impacted by students parking in front of their houses on a daily basis, despite the posted signs there. So, you know, revisiting this topic, this was a concept plan, and here's also a grading plan that McCarthy's office put together. I'm ballparking the cost estimate from 2019 was, I think, in the range of 80 to 120,000. I have no idea how much that's probably changed since then, and then the question would be, do we want to do pervious paving for obvious reasons? So just revisiting the topic, is there any desire by the borough to reach out to the school district and start a conversation about partnering together on cost for creating the parking?
For some reason, I thought, wasn't there some discussion about giving that piece of property to the school and letting them just do it? I thought that came up.
I thought we, somehow that, I remember the conversation, who knows when that was.
Yeah, it was early on that it was a conversation, and then it was a question of whether it could be deeded or whether it was restrictions. It seems like the partnership should be, we'll provide the land and they provide the parking lot, since they're the ones that are gonna use it.
Yeah, there really isn't any benefit that I've
Well, we
seen.
would still own the property, but they would have to pay for the improvement.
I mean, there is a potential benefit that users of the parkland system could park there.
Yeah, but it's mostly overflow when they have
Right.
sporting events and they've got their track meets and so on. That's when all that parking gets
Yeah,
done
and
down
it's-
there.
I agree with
It's
you.
dangerous.
I agree with you
There's
there,
not
but
much
you get the
clearance,
first
you know.
couple of nice days in spring and walk, they're parking all the way down Old Mill Road.
Oh,
Main
sure.
Way. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the zoo.
Yeah. Well, we provide the land, they provide the improvement.
I think the answer is we should get a conversation with the school district and discuss it.
I agree.
We can do that, I'm not their favorite person right now, so.
So, I'm not either, so it's okay.
Nor am I.
Never were.
Yeah,
All right,
never
moving
were,
on.
Fred. Never were.
But, as part of,
1973.
I could
Graduated.
certainly bring that up in conversation when Chris and I speak to them about the other issue, so.
Yeah, why don't you just do that? Okay. The other thing I'll tell you is, for our residents who do go to those sporting events, they have to park over, they're using the pool parking lot, they're
Oh,
using
sure.
all kinds of, I mean,
It will, no, I think it is for everybody, yeah.
Library HVAC, here we go.
I'll let Nick take that handle on that.
Long story short, the plans for the HVAC replacement were put together using the original drawings from the library. And after the contract was awarded and the contractor got out there, the equipment that was specified wasn't exactly feasible for what they wanted to do. So the equipment that was going to be installed changed, and with that comes a price change. So that's what the additional cost is for this change order.
It's $9,982.32.
I have to ask, why would they have why would they have old plans?
That's a great question.
So far, not a good answer. I don't know.
I don't, I wasn't involved in the design phase.
Norm from Jim's office, when he was designing that, the addition is 20 years old. We had the HVAC plans, gave those to him, and that was the basis of his design. But apparently it wasn't built as those per those plans.
Right. That's a big swing.
So we're talking about, what you said the number was, $9,000.
Just about 10.
Total of 58.
And this was the only bidder, am I correct?
No, we have multiple
Well, I think we all know that the library system needs its HVAC system working and updated. I get it's another $9,900. I'm glad it's not my, that I'm not head of that department anymore.
I mean, are we obligated just to make the change order, or do we put it back out for bids?
We have a contract, we awarded the contract.
But it's a 20% increase in the price, based on, so they didn't bid the right thing.
Well, they bid based on the specs that they were given by the borough. So,
But they
that's-
can't complete the job based on the specs.
I mean, just based on what Jim said, this seems to me to be on the borough, from the point of view that, we asked for bids on the basis of specs that weren't accurate for what the project actually entails. I mean, I don't know, Jim, am I?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just calling it the way I hear it.
All right, so, we have anybody who wants to make a motion to go ahead with that, the additional roughly $9,900 for the library
I'll make the
HVAC? We have a motion, anybody want to second
I'll
that?
second.
Second that. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. I guess it just goes to council now, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's number 19. Number 20, any old business?
I do have a question, I don't know when that brought up earlier. In 21, we had 114 rental permits. How many do we have in 2020? Any, do you know, or could you find out? I don't know who could ever can answer that. I'm just curious what the impact of these rental permits, are they increasing, decreasing? What, I'm just,
Michele, I knows, I'll wait till Michele goes back.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Michele, question regarding rental permits.
Yes.
In 2021, we had 114. What was it in 20? Can you recall or give me a estimate?
If you give me a sec, I can pull the report from December of 2020. So rental permits are on a 2-year basis. So what was inspected in 21 will be re-inspected in 23. So typically 20 and 22 are the same. It's gonna differ.
Ah, so you can't see year to year increase or decrease.
Yes. Hold on a second.
That's really my question. What's the impact of rental
I
permits?
mean, we can in terms of pulling a report out of Edmonds, which is where we process the payment for it. I can just by looking back historically at the December report that tallies everything.
Just an information question.
All right. Just want to get that to us whenever you get a chance.
Yeah.
Any other old business? Any new business?
I have a request for an executive session to discuss litigation.
Good. And we will go into executive session. How long do we need?
I'm thinking 5 minutes.
Okay, we will be back. For those of you who are not in the executive session, we'll be back in 7 minutes or less.
I don't know if you want to do this in Ireland. You're welcome to grab sandwiches.
All right, we're back in public session. We have to make a motion to amend the agenda to include the executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any public comment?
Not on that.
Okay. And then we have, Fred, you want to go ahead and do yours?
The motion,
Yeah.
my motion to, conditionally approve Marshall Denny as representing us, in this matter, just, with a waivable conflict of interest, is that what you're asking?
That's correct.
Yeah,
question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have carried it. Do we have to have public comment for that too?
No, although, I mean, you did ask if there's public comment on the waiver.
Oh.
No public comment?
Wait, on the way.
You're good on the
I-
public,
actually,
you're good on the
it
public
should be.
comment section right now?
It's okay, I'm good.
You're good? No public comment?
I just had a small, but not related to this, I don't wanna, once you pass this thing,
Okay. That's all we have.
That's it.
Yeah.